Hello everyone and welcome to a crossover SUV which has been quite popular for several years in its segment. It does all the work without any fuss, it's comfortable, it's spacious, and it's now offered with a lot of newer things, which is this 2025 Hyundai Tucson. So the new Tucson is offered in 4 different trims: Preferred, XRT, N-Line and the Ultimate, which is the hybrid variant, and also the N-Line that comes with the hybrid option too. And the particular variant that I'm reviewing is the Tucson XRT, which is a new addition to the lineup. And think of the XRT as a more rugged and off-road version of the Tucson, but I'll come to what exactly is the off-roading things on this newer variant. So let me begin with the front. It gets this massive checkered grille out here, the checkerboard kind of grille here in the dark chrome with the black color Hyundai badging, which is for the XRT, and on the edge are the DRLs. And on a normal day you would think that these are not the lights because they are also covered with the same dark chrome on it, but it just illuminates and shows you the DRLs, and the DRLs are the LED DRLs, and the top bits convert into the turn signal also, and more angular bumper at the bottom. There are lots of lines and angles that are going on, so yeah, the design language is subjective, but when this design came out, for a while I thought it was a bit too much, but the more you look at it, the more you start settling in with the fact that it actually looks rather nicer for, you know, a daily driver. Not too bad, and it's not that edgy also if you keep looking at it for a longer time. Then there are these headlight clusters which are sitting at the bottom, and these headlights are the LED headlight cluster. They sit at the lower side so that they don't dazzle the driver that you are following. There are also functional vents, so air goes in there and comes out from the back, and also more opening at the bottom too, with some normal plastic bumper at the bottom. That is also a camera for the active and the passive safety systems. And in terms of the engine offerings, so the Preferred and the XRT comes with the 2.5 liter 4-cylinder engine, whereas the N-Line Hybrid and the Ultimate Hybrid comes with a 1.6 liter 4-cylinder turbocharged engine. So the things that are new on this XRT variant of the Tucson are all on the sides majorly, beginning with these 18-inch dual tone alloy wheels, 5 spokes, and this design is exclusive to the XRT variant. I think it looks pretty good on this. Let me know in the comment section below what do you think about the wheel design. And also for this XRT variant, it's offered with the all-terrain tires, which is exclusive to this variant. And then there are these body claddings in normal plastic, and again that is to make this Tucson look a little more rugged and off-road ready. Then there are these skirtings, normal plastic skirtings at the bottom too. They completely cover the entire frame, so that's one good thing if you go off-roading in this Tucson. So it's gonna, the frames are gonna remain clean when you come in and out of the car. More body claddings in the back too, again a little more off-roady and rugged looking claddings on the side. Then there are these glossy black roof rails, again that is a part of the XRT package. And then is this paint work, which is this matte gray. The exact name is at the bottom, but then this is the matte gray color that is offered on this Tucson, and it looks pretty good. At first I thought yeah, it might not, but it's a looker on the road because people have been noticing this paint work for sure. Then there are these side mirrors, which are glossy black side mirrors. They are non-power foldable, they are power adjustable, they have blind spot warning on the inside, and also a turn signal on the edge. Then the doors in the front are the keyless entry doors, and also there is a smart key that can be configured on the phone itself, so you can use your phone to lock or unlock the car and do the remote engine start stop, and also take an update of the car about its service and everything. Then there is also the Tucson badging, the plastic one on the door sills in the front and also in the back. And all the variants of the Tucson now come with the all-wheel drive system as standard. And this XRT variant, even though this is more off-road version of the Tucson, but it still got the same ground clearance. Well, in the rear, the design is nearly identical to all other trim levels. So on this Tucson XRT, there are these LED tail lights, and there is this continuous bar that goes from one end to the other, and then this claw design. So the complete set is in LED, and the turn signals are at the bottom. They are in halogen, so they are given on either side, and then this normal plastic bumper that is provided at the bottom, so it's just much more easier to replace it if it gets damaged or anything, which is a good idea. Then there is this H-track badging, which is for the all-wheel drive system, and then the Tucson badging and the XRT badging on the other side, and the Hyundai badging, which is now on the inside behind this glass. So yeah, that's actually quite easier to maintain also, so you can just clean it all the time. And another change that has happened is that the rear wiper has been extended by a few millimeters, so now it's a little on the longer side. And there is also this spoiler, rear spoiler, which is again in the same matte gray color. Now when we come to the rear visibility, it's actually pretty decent for this Tucson because the glass is quite vertical, so you get good amount of rear visibility and also quite a lot of visibility in terms of the lanes also from the rear view glass. Now in order to open the trunk door, you press the button, and there's a cutout near the rear bumper in the center, so you press that and open. And then this is one of the biggest reasons why you should buy the Tucson, because my oh my, the space in the back is just huge. I mean, huge is just a very small word for this trunk capacity, because when the rear seats are folded up, you can put 38.7 cubic feet of luggage in the back, which is extremely big. And also there are scuff plates in the back, so you don't damage your plastic bumper. But even the trunk opening itself is quite low down and also not much of a lip, so it's just going to be very easy to put your luggage in and out, slide it in and out. It's going to be very easy for sure. There is also a trunk light given on the left side along with a power socket, and there are also tying points and hooks given all across in the rear too. And at the bottom of this trunk floor sits a repair kit, a tire repair kit instead of a spare wheel. Now the rear seats are foldable in a ratio of 60:40. Now on one of the seats there is a child seat, but one more convenience feature is that there are levers added in the back, so you just pull them and you can fold down the seats. Let me demonstrate you one of the seats, and it's quite easy to just fold them down. It goes down very easily, and once the rear seats are folded down, then you can put 74.8 cubic feet of luggage in the back, which is extremely big. I mean, you can put like 4-5 big bags easily inside this. I've tried and tested also on the previous Tucson, which is why I said if nothing impresses you, then the trunk space is something which makes this car such an ideal daily user, because you can lock in like so much of luggage on the inside and just forget about it, because this car won't bother you with consuming additional bit of space somewhere else. So the luggage is going to be quite an easier thing to manage on this Tucson, and it maintains even for this generation also. Then in order to close the trunk door, there is a button provided. You press that and it's a motorized trunk door, so that's also a convenient feature provided. Well, it's the inside of the new Tucson where majority of the changes have happened, and it seems like Hyundai has listened to the customers' pain points and they've worked on them and rectified them. So the first thing that you would notice is this big curving display, so that includes the driver's display and the infotainment screen. So 12.3 inch of driver's display, 12.3 inch of the infotainment screen, and this new setup of the air conditioning controls instead of the previous generation where there was the infotainment screen and the air conditioning controls all slabbed on this face of the dashboard. And if you also notice, there is no gear shifter buttons out here in the center console where I'm resting my hands, but instead it's moved into this column shifter that comes out from the steering column. So the shifter is again drive by wire, but it's like you have to put it into drive, you have to twist the knob in the front into reverse, neutral, and then the parking. So that's how it functions. But yes, that essentially frees up the space here, and you don't have to interact in this side while driving. It takes a little while to get used to that stick, but then yes, Mercedes and other manufacturers also offer you that. So this is something similar arrangement in terms of that. And then the material quality that has been improved, and also freeing up of space here in the dashboard. So lots of things that have changed. And another change that you would notice is the logo on the steering. And at first you would find like why there are 4 dots on the steering wheel, and turns out it's a Morse code and it represents H on the steering. Yes, you can Google it and check it out for yourself, but that is actually pretty smart to include a very minimalist yet a very useful logo on the steering wheel. So let me begin with the material quality. On the dashboard, on the top face, there is soft touch material, but I wish that was a little softer because it's still quite hard. Even on the top face of the door cards, there is the squidgy materials, and on the side face there is fabric material provided where you're going to be resting hands. That's again leather covered, black. And then around the switches, again piano black plastic, and on the dashboard itself, on the edges, there is this fabric material for softer touches. And then where the driver's display ends, on the edge, there is also this fabric material that's been put on there too. And this cutout out here that is provided to put like your phones or wallets. So that's another useful space utilized on the top of the dashboard by providing you a cutout there, and then the space here, and then this floating sort of island that has buttons in the front and the wireless charger, and then this armrest which is again leather covered, soft material. Then even the seats are the black color leather seats. They are perforated seats, but I'm going to come to them too. The steering wheel is leather covered, and at the bottom side of this side face there's normal plastic. Even at the bottom of the door cards there is normal plastic. But yes, I see that there is less use of a lot of plastic and more meaningful material provided on the inside, which was a bit of my complaint in the previous generations because the cars seem to be too plasticky. But on this one they've all removed all of that, and then now it's become more like soft touch materials all across. And also there are mood lights that are provided under this dashboard cutout. So there is a huge light there. Then on the door cards, in the footwell, and in order to change the color of these lights, you go into the setup, then into the vehicle, and then the lights. Then there is the ambient light option. You can increase or decrease the darkness, and then there are some set colors. Otherwise you can select from so many different colors on the inside. And then there is also the link to drive mode, so you can even change in case you want these lights to change according to the different drive modes that this Tucson comes with. So that's also an option. Now when we come to the driver's display, this is a 12.3 inch digital driver's display, and it's part of this entire curved display with a dead area in between. So that's the only thing, but they've just maintained the entire curve area so that the infotainment screen also faces a little towards the driver while driving. And this driver's display is actually quite minimalist, but the designs can be changed from inside this infotainment screen. So let me first come to that. So in order to change the design of this infotainment screen, there is the settings, then the cluster, and then you go into the cluster theme selection. So you can keep it simple, which reduces a lot of information, only shows you digital speed and the RPM counter with the rings around that, and the information in the middle. A little more modernized, and a little bit of animation and graphics is going on. Then the classics, if you want to see the numbers on your gauges, then that's also marked on that. And then the graphic style at the bottom, so that's style A, style B, which is in green, style C is in like red, and then you can link it to the drive mode if you want these dials to change the appearance according to that. So yeah, lots of combination is also possible on this driver's display. Now in order to change the information in the middle of this driver's display, there is buttons provided on the left side. So on the top you can go through the list of it, like a couple of them. So the scroller dial is also provided. So the first information is the current trip, then the refueling, then the last reset, then the auto stop, tire pressure, and then the drive power distribution. And then we go to the next option, which is for all the safety systems. You press the dial and then go into the driver assistance on the inside by pressing that dial, and then on your main infotainment screen you can change all the different driving assistance while on the move. So that's how you operate this driver's display. That way it's not more complicated, and this driver's display and the infotainment screen are actually quite crisp and clear even when there is sunlight falling directly on it, which is actually a good thing because you want that for daily usages. You don't want the screens to fade while driving and the information to be a little difficult to read while driving. Now when we come to this steering wheel, this is a leather covered steering wheel, 3-spoke, and then buttons given on either side of the steering, and also paddle shifters given in the back. It comes with 8-speed automatic gearbox. These paddle shifters are the plastic ones, and the steering wheel is tilt and telescopic, adjustable, and you can lock it in place. And also this gear shifter that comes out from the steering column at the bottom, and it's also at all the time quite readable too. Now on the right side there are buttons provided for the media controls, and also there is a mode and a star button, and also one more star button that is provided above the air conditioning controls, and all of those can be customized using going from the setup into the buttons option. And then the star buttons can be customized, mode buttons, and also the up and down button on the steering wheel. So all of them can have different options that you can change. So many options to customize these buttons also. And on the left side the buttons are provided for the adaptive cruise control. Now when we come to the air conditioning controls, that's again one more area where the changes have happened, because in the previous generation there used to be all button operated and all touch buttons also, which were making it quite difficult to use that air conditioning controls. But for this current generation, in order to change the temperature, there are dials given on either side. Now in order to switch it on and off, press the fan buttons on the panel itself, and these are all the touch buttons also, whereas the temperature dials are given on either side. So you get dual zone air conditioning system on this Tucson XRT. There is also the heated steering wheel button, and everything has like easier functions, so straightforward you can press it, but just that yes, you still have to look down to see where you're pressing these options. So that's just the only concern, but otherwise yes, it's fairly straightforward and easy to use these buttons. Also to change the mode of flow of air or even the fresh air and AC and on and off buttons. So very easy to use, and it's also got this matte finish for it, so that it's not reflecting while you are driving. There are also buttons provided on either side of the air conditioning controls for the heated seat. So the driver and the passenger side seat comes as the heated seats, and there are different levels to that too, so you can control using the buttons provided on this air conditioning controls. Now when we come to this infotainment screen, this is a 12.3-inch infotainment system provided on this new Tucson, and in terms of the functionality, it's easier, I would say, and not much is going on, so it makes it easier to operate this screen. It's light, so it's not slowing it down also. And there are also buttons provided above the air conditioning controls for all the same options that are given on the infotainment screen, and also a dial for the volume and the track changer too. I'm going to come to those buttons in a bit. So you can even organize these widgets on your screens however you want them to be customized to your taste, so you can do that too. And the first option is the media or whatever controls or whatever source is going on. So in terms of the connectivity, you can connect to this infotainment screen using Bluetooth, USB. There is wireless Android Auto and Apple CarPlay. And the best part about using wireless Android Auto and Apple CarPlay is using the maps, because it utilizes this entire screen, which is a good thing. Then the next option is the phone, then the phone projection, which is for the Android Auto, Apple CarPlay, then the valet mode. And for all these options you need a Blue Link account, so which is why it's not opening right now. Then the vehicle diagnostic, again you need the Blue Link. Then the maintenance notifications, for all that you need Blue Link account, online manual, then the detailed setup where there is the vehicle option, so driver assistance, and then there is the drive mode. I'm going to come to drive mode because there is a my drive mode that you can customize, and at any point even those options are shown to you in this vertical form also, so you can go from there. Lights, door, digital keys and convenience, then all of those same options, and you come out, then the sound settings, so you get Bose surround sound system on this new Tucson. Then the device connection, user profile, screen layouts, so you can even have the gauge style which I showed you, then the screensaver or the split screen option. So when you go into the media option, the first one, and then you can have the split screen option where it will show you like the compass and the different options, and there is also the sounds of nature, which is like this inbuilt sound that you can play for different types of mood. And again we continue with the setup, then there is the display, which is all your camera settings, illumination, blue light filter, then the buttons, the star buttons, then the cluster, Blue Link, and the general, which is all the general settings, system, date, time, media option, units, and reset. So that's how you use this infotainment screen. You can even scroll down from the top and you can display switch off and quiet mode, split screen that you can use. So all of those, so that's how you use this infotainment screen on this Tucson. Now when we come to the charging, so there are two Type-C USB ports provided underneath the air conditioning controls, and one of the ports can be switched from charging to even the USB connection by pressing the button next to it. So it turns into orange if it's in the USB mode, or if it's charging it's in the white color. And also a 180 watt 12 volt power socket, and also there is a wireless charger that is quite handy near my armrest. And if I put my phone for charging, there are these green lights that illuminate, and 3 green lights that are showing when the phone is charging to show you that the wireless charger is working. You can change even that setting to show you from orange to green, it remains illuminated, or this sort of bar setup where it's like showing you the different charging levels that's happening. And there are 2 more Type-C USB ports given for the rear passengers. Now on this new Tucson there is also an SOS button and also an assistant button, so you press that and it will connect you to the roadside assistance. It's like this tow truck kind of button, so you press that. Then there are these extendable sun visors. There is also a standard sunroof, big enough and decent enough for this Tucson. Now in terms of the storage capacity, so in the door cards you can easily put about 1.5 liter worth of bottle and some more storage on the side. There is this big storage out here where you can store a lot of things. This cutout provided on the top side of the dashboard where you can put a lot of stuff. Then this glove box, this center armrest in which you can easily put 4 half-a liter worth of bottles. Yes, that's quite possible. There are also 2 flexible cup holders in this floating armrest. Even on the passenger side, same amount of capacity. For the rear door cards, you can put about 1.5 liter worth of bottle, and also there are 2 more cup holders provided in the center armrest. Now there are more buttons that are provided on the front side of this floating handrest, and the buttons are for the drive mode, terrain, and the mode. So there are 3 different driving modes. So there is normal, sport, and the my drive, and the my drive can be customized from inside this setup. You go into the vehicle and then the drive mode, and inside my drive mode, so there is a bit of layering going on, so you have to go a little bit deeper inside to get into that menu option. And then powertrain option, steering option that you can change, and then there are the terrain modes, again 3 different terrain modes, and then you use this switch to different modes, which is snow, mud, and sand. So that's how you flick from different drive and terrain modes and select the different modes. And then there are more buttons like auto hold, the engine start stop, and the hill descent control, and the camera option. So if you want to call the single camera, so you can do that too. Again, that view also you can have on the entire screen, which is a brilliant thing. So you can utilize this entire display at any point of time. Now when we come to the seats, so these seats are the black color leather seats. They are perforated seats, and They are the heated seats, as I mentioned, the driver and the passenger side seat, and these seats are quite broad and they are also quite comfortable. Again, another issue that I had with the previous generation of Hyundais was the fact that the seats were a bit on stiffer side, but on this they are not that firm, but they are quite decently comfortable and they are soft too. A little bit of lower lumbar that it misses out, but I still wouldn't complain, and on longer journeys they are going to be quite all right. There is also XRT badging embossed on the backrest, and these headrests are also quite soft now instead of that firm setup in the previous generation. There is good amount of side support. They are not sporty kind of seats, but more broad seats, so can easily fit inside them. Even at the bottom there's good amount of thigh support too, and with the adjustment, especially for the driver, you can have good amount of under thigh support. In terms of the adjustability, so the driver side seat is 8-way electronically adjustable and 2-way lumbar adjustment, whereas the passenger side seat is just manually adjustable. Well, as I said, if you're not sold by the exterior, then interior is something that would definitely convince you, and the rear space is something that would just seal the deal for sure, because the amount of space in this rear area is just huge. Now, in terms of the knee room, I have almost 1 palm worth of it. This driver seat is in my driving position. After that much of space, the headroom, again, that is plenty. Someone about 6'3" also will be able to fit into these rear seats. And not just that, even the positioning of these seats is just so comfortable and at a very good angle. And one more advantage is that this backrest is also adjustable, so you can recline it during the longer journeys, or if there is a lot of cargo and you want to keep it upright, you can do that too. So there is multiple adjustment opportunities also. So this angle adjustment basically gives you a lot of seating options too. And also in the rear, the seats are soft, and that's another improvement that has gone into this Tucson. So these seats are the same black color leather seats. They are perforated seats, but they are not the heated seats, just perforated for maintaining the design. And there are these 3 headrests. Again, they are also quite soft, and the angle, as I mentioned, it offers good amount of support underneath my thigh. I have no issues with that. I can even slide my legs under the seats during the longer journeys, but as it is, there is good angle at which you will be sitting, so it's going to be very comfortable. And also the windows are quite big, so they offer good amount of visibility too. And again, it does not make you feel like you're sitting way too low down to increase that headspace, but at a very decent position, which is a good thing on this Tucson. And there is also a middle seat provided too. There is also a small bit of step that comes in the back, and the Tucson also comes with the rubber mats, so it's just much more easier to clean them if they get dirty, especially in winters. Like right now when the snow is melting, it's become all murky and like really slushy outside. So once I sit in the middle, the middle seat is decently soft, something which is not very usual in a lot of cars. The backrest, yes, that's slightly on the harder side. That is to do with the fact that there are 2 cup holders, normal ones, that are provided in this handrest, and I wish the handrest was slightly on the longer side so I can use it while putting my drinks also. But yes, it's still, there is a handrest provided. In terms of the door card quality, there is like normal plastic now in the back, and then on the side face there is the fabric material where you're going to be resting hands, that's leather covered, so it's softer. And then this piano black plastic around the switches. At the bottom, again, normal plastic, and you can put like maybe half a liter worth of bottle in the door cards on either side. That's about it. There's also pocket storage in the back side of the front passenger seat. There are also 2 air conditioning vents provided for the rear passengers. What really impresses me about this new Tucson is the fact it's genuinely very comfortable and spacious for the rear passengers too, and at the same time it does not cut back on the luggage space that is provided. So it's a very balanced approach that is offered on this new Tucson. So this new Tucson XRT is powered by a 2.5 liter 4-cylinder DOHC engine that produces 187 horsepower and 178 pound-feet of torque. and this engine is mated to an 8-speed automatic transmission that sends the power to all the wheels via an H-track all-wheel drive system. Now, in terms of the engine, the horsepower may sound a bit on the lower side and not very impressive that way, but in terms of the daily usage, it's ample. Like, this car has enough of grunt to tackle everyday uses. Yes, in the traffic, if you want to accelerate, it takes a little longer to respond because obviously it's a naturally aspirated engine and not the turbocharged engine, so it takes a little while to build up to that power because the peak power comes nearly at around 6000 rpm, so that's quite on a higher side too. But yes, for daily usages it's gonna be enough. And also, in terms of the gear shifts, the 8-speed automatic gearbox is all right, although I've found that shifting from first to second is a bit on the jerky side, and also if I want to accelerate, it takes slightly longer to respond. It tries to hold the gears also instead of shifting them because it thinks you are kind of in a sporty mode by your own self, so it tends to do that. But otherwise, yes, the gear shifts are also quite crisp. There are paddle shifters, but they take a little longer, like half a second delay to shift to different gears. But again, if you want to take over the control, then it's for that. There is also the sport mode. So if I put it in the sport mode, yes, the engine RPMs go a little on the higher side before the gears are shifted, so it utilizes that higher RPM band. And also the steering becomes slightly on the stiffer side, just ever so slightly, but it doesn't really change that much of dynamics, so you're just all right with using the normal mode for everyday use. Now, in terms of the efficiency, so for daily use on a highway, I've managed to get between 7.5 to 7.8 liters per 100 kilometers, whereas within the city I've been averaging around 9.5 to 10 liters per 100 kilometers, which is expected from this 2.5 liter engine. But one thing is that this engine does feel a little dated now in terms of its overall response, because the N-line model and the Ultimate model comes with the 1.6 liter turbocharged engine, and I'm guessing that's going to be a little more responsive, far more responsive in fact, than the standard 2.5 liter engine. So that's something to look for, especially if this is an XRT which is pitched as a more off-road focus car. So in terms of the off-road capabilities of this XRT, even though this comes with the all-wheel drive, the distribution is fine, but it's more front-wheel drive biased and less towards the rear for daily usages. That's quite evident when you accelerate, because it pushes the front, and as you hear, like, it becomes quite a grunty, loud affair if you try to push this engine. Now, in terms of the off-road capabilities, as I mentioned, the ground clearance is exactly the same, the engine is exactly the same as the preferred, so there's not much difference. It's just in terms of the body claddings and all, to just make you go on some softer terrains, not the hard ones. So make sure you just don't push this thing a lot, and it's not going to be like a crawler or anything, just the light bit of off-roading, yes, it will do. Now, in terms of the suspension, so I found the ride quality to be slightly on the firmer side, just that these seats make the ride a little more bearable and comfortable for daily usage. But otherwise, yes, the setup is on the stiffer side, but yes, compared to the previous generation, there is slight improvement in terms of the ride quality through this suspension. Now, when we come to the steering is all right. It's an electronic steering. It's got decent amount of feedback, although I would have loved a little more from it, but nonetheless, for daily usage, it's all right. It's quite responsive, and it's gonna do its job fairly nicely. And as I said, even though if you shift this thing into the sport mode, stiffens up slightly, but not too much, so it's all right in terms of it's calibrated towards the daily usage. Now, in terms of the roll, so there is not much role. And I mean, I wouldn't say like there is not at all, because obviously this is like a tall SUV that way, so there is some, but it controls the body roll quite easily, so you can lean on that. But just that sometimes the turns are not that fun because they seem a little bit numb, and as a result of this steering setup also, you would feel like it's just a blast sort of experience going through the turns and overall experience. Now when we come to the brakes, so there are 4 disc brakes on this Tucson, and in terms of the braking performance, it's good. The disc brakes work very well, just that the pedal has a bit of a softer setup, and initially there's a bit of dead zone, so you have to really press it and then start getting into that braking action. But nonetheless, it's again all right for daily use. Now when it comes to the noise, so I found that these all-terrain tires are slightly on the noisy side. Like there is this sort of boring sound that I always hear. I don't know if it's just me being oversensitive, but yeah, I can hear those tires, but otherwise they are quiet on longer runs. And essentially what Tucson is popular for is the quiet ride quality, and that it delivers for sure. Just that sometimes when the engine is pushed, it might get a little noisy and loud, but otherwise it's all right. Even the windows, they don't have much of wind whooshing going around, so that way it's quite it's a quiet experience on the inside. Now when we come to the safety systems, so there are 8 airbags, 2 for the front driver and the passenger, 2 side airbags again for the driver and the passenger, 2 side airbags even for the rear passengers on either side. Then there are 2 curtain airbags in the pillars. Then there is child isofix points in both the rear seats. There is also a single camera reversing system, but the output from that is really good. I like it. And there is also the ability to switch to a full utilization of this infotainment screen. So as a result of that, the clarity on that really matters, and it delivers on that front. Now I'm going slow because there are like couple of forklifts and diggers in front of me, which is why things are quite slowed down, and they are having a race amongst themselves also in front of me. Oh, in fact there are 4 of them, so yeah, that's quite a lot busy road going on there in front of me. Now continuing, in terms of the other safety systems, there is also the blind spot monitoring. There is also the smart cruise control, which is the hands-free. There is also lane keep assist, lane departure warning, ABS, EBD, front and the rear collision warnings, then the rear seat reminder. Then there is also the tire pressure monitoring system. So lots of safety systems, and in fact for this sort of car, yes, it delivers as you expect it would. Now in terms of the pricing, so the preferred variant, which is the base one, starts from $37,400 and $34,000, whereas this XRT comes in at $41,800 and $99,000, whereas the N-line variant comes in at $46,100 and $34,000, and the ultimate variant comes in at $50,100 and $34,000. Now in terms of the pricing, it's nearly there with its competitors like the Honda CR-V, Mazda CX-50. So all of those cars are nearly in the same price bracket, and as I've mentioned, this car delivers on everything that matters. So it gives you the comfort, it gives you the space, and it's now been also improved in terms of its overall usage, because some of the pain points, as I mentioned, have been improved on the inside. The looks, it's all right. It's a sort of car that does all the daily work for you without it shouting about it like, oh yeah, I can do that. It does everything effortlessly, and I know that it just sometimes does not have some of the strongest things that you can mention on the paper, but as a daily functioning car, this thing delivers on all those aspects, and which is why it sells in huge numbers, which is why it's one of the most popular crossover SUVs in its segment. And I get it, it's just that you have to drive this long enough to understand, because here's the thing, you would not appreciate this car in your daily life when you're using it. Yes, certain ways you would think like, oh, you can rely on this car for everyday use because it will be so reliable, but when this car is gone, then you would start missing this car. It's that sort of car. So for that, this Tucson still is gonna maintain that high selling volume in its segment. Anyways, that's pretty much it for this video. Thank you for watching this video, and if you like this video, make sure to press the thumbs up button. I shall see you in the next video. Bye bye, take care and drive safe.